I'm currently waiting for the landscapers to finish doing what they're doing so I can legitimately film VEDA Day 6. In the meantime, good morning. It's actually afternoon. I went to bed pretty late this morning. Couldn't sleep, so I filed my taxes. So for those of you watching this video today, make sure you file your taxes. That's the landscaper. Yep. True story. I honestly don't have that much dirt. I don't know what he's blowing. I don't even use my back porch. I have no idea what he was blowing. That was unnecessarily loud. So what I was saying before he rudely interrupted. I'm coming to you with a fresh face, no makeup. Put my hair up, try to make it look decent because I didn't want to go through the whole process of just washing it off, wasting makeup. I'm not going anywhere today. But anyway, I was saying I couldn't sleep last night. So while I was up, I figured, it's after midnight anyway, so I might as well just file my taxes. So I managed to get the old laptop to turn on and stay on, so I can do that. Yeah, so I got that done. So that was my PSA to all my friends and family out there. Today's April 16th. I believe tomorrow is the deadline to file your taxes. Yeah, get it done. So anyway, guys, welcome to VEDA Day 16. On the predetermined list, they asked about favorite author or favorite book or something like that. And those of you that have been following me for a long time, you know that I am a lover of books. I have talked about my obsession with books. I've talked about my obsession with completing series of books. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do today instead, I'm just gonna give you my top 5 books that I would definitely recommend for you guys to read. I've talked about this book before. The name of the book is called Their Eyes Were Watching God, right here. And the author, as you can see, if I held it long enough, sorry, is Zora Neale Hurston. I read this book years ago. I had told the story before. I heard Oprah was doing a film adaptation for TV, and this was back in the day when I had a VCR. And I remember I had to work the night that the movie was coming out, and I had to set the VCR to record the movie. But that being said, I had wanted to read the book because this was a part of the Oprah book club, and I wanted to read the book. And I tell you, I'm glad she told us way in advance that that she was doing a movie on this book, because it took me a very, very long time to read this book. This book is very good, but the verbiage that it's written, especially the dialogue parts, it's written in broken English, and sometimes it's just a little hard to get through. but it's definitely a recommend. I think it flexes some of those muscles in your brain to kind of like think and just concentrate. It's not one of those books where you can just skim through it and figure out, you know, what is going on. It's like you have to take your time and you read it. But once you like you meet Janie and fall in love with her, and then you meet Tea Cake. By the way, I own the movie. This was like years later that I got the movie. I think it's on DVD. I don't have it on Blu-ray, but I have it on DVD. I own the movie, and every chance I can get, I watch it. I pick this book up every once in a blue, and I read it. That was my first book. Their Eyes Were Watching God. If you get a chance and you have time, I mean, it's not something you're gonna sit and read in one reading, unless you're really that into it, but it's a really, really good book. So there's that book. This book I haven't read in years, but I remember when I read it, I was like enthralled by it. It's called Krak, and it's by Edwidge Danticat. And this is what the cover looks like. Sorry for that glare, you're near the window. And I read this book years ago, over 20 years ago. And it's a really good book. The author, if you haven't picked up on the accent when I read the title, is Haitian. So I was a huge supporter of that. And it's a really good book. She has written other books, but this was the first one that I read of hers, and it was really, really good. So I definitely recommend that book. It's not a romance. My third book that I want to show you guys that I would definitely recommend for you guys to read is called The Coldest Winter Ever. It's by Sister Souljah. For those of you that are of my age, some of the younger ones as well, you'll know Sister Souljah is a political activist, but she is also a hip-hop artist. She's a rapper, and I never really listened to a lot of her music growing up, but I did know of her, of that era, you know, with Public Enemy and KRS-One and artists of that genre, of that era. So that's how I know her. And then let's see, what year did this book published? This book was published 1999. So this was before I met my husband. I remember I read this book and I fell in love with this book. It's nothing like you've ever read. It's a story. It's a great story. Of course, you know, it has like, you know, a little romance, but it's not like what you would think of like in your romance novel, like kind of like thought process. It's a good story about a girl and just her life and growing up in Brooklyn, and yeah, you gotta read this book. This book is so good. I remember after I read it, I got my brother Jimmy to read it. I believe my brothers Richard and Gregory read it as well. I got Dan to read it. I believe my mother-in-law read it. Maybe not, but I know Dan had read it because I was just like, you've got to read this book. This book is amazing. If you get a chance, you can read this book. I do. This author, Frances Ray, I've mentioned her like a couple of times before. My mother-in-law introduced me to Frances Ray. She, unfortunately, Miss Ray passed away a couple of years ago. I was really, really sad by that, but I know she's got like so many books that I can go back and read. Her writing style is so good. She's a romance novelist, and it's like clean, you know, heartwarming romance. And it just makes you feel good. It's like, you know, you're just rooting for everyone to win in the end. And yeah, so of all the books that I've read, I don't know if this was the first one that I ever read, but this one is called Trouble Don't Last always. You can't see it because the title's in white. But yeah, Trouble Don't Last Always, and it's by Frances Ray. This book, my fifth and final recommendation for books that I think that you should read, is actually a classic. You're not gonna see any dents in the spine in this, because I bought it to just add to my library because I love this book. I've seen pretty much every variation of the film adaptation of this book. It's a classic. It's by Charlotte Brontë, and it's called Jane Eyre. All right? You see how thick that is? I read this book on my own. It was not a reading assignment in high school. I went to the library because I was a library nerd, and I saw the book and I was like, it looks interesting. I'm gonna read it. So I did. And I read it and I was like, how come nobody's ever told me about this book? This book is kind of amazing. I love this book. But yeah, it's romance. It's let's see. This was first published in the year 1847. You know, it's a long time ago when you say in the year. But yeah, in the year 1847. Yes. It describes it as an extraordinary coming-of-age story featuring one of the most independent and strong-willed female protagonists of all literature. I love this book. I love this book. So guys, that was VEDA Day 16. Those were my top 5 books for today that I would recommend to you. I'll put the names of the books and the author names in the description box below if you didn't get a chance to like pause or anything in the video. I'll put it in the description box so you can see the names of those books. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for VEDA Day 17. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.